Welcome back, Billiken fans. It's Zach Miller and Peter Hale. This is the Midtown Madness Podcast. Before we get going, thank you so much for listening. And if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. Hit the bell icon down below as well to get notified whenever a new episode drops on YouTube. It's season 4. Once again, the Midtown Madness Podcast is brought to you by Two Men in a Garden. It's fall, and for some inexplicable reason, I just really like chips and salsa in the fall. I don't know what it is, but it's a bit of a fall comfort food. Maybe it's the fall sports on TV. I don't know. But when I break out the salsa, you better believe it's Two Men in a Garden. It's local. It tastes amazing. They got all the flavors to suit your individual salsa preferences. You can get their many products at any local grocery store or online at twomeninthegarden.com, which if you're particular about your salsa preferences, that's where you want to go. Follow them on social media at Two Men Salsa on Instagram and Twitter. Pete, we got a very big week. It's a big week for Billiken basketball, but it's also a big week for the show. We have 2 episodes dropping this week. 1, this episode, and 2, we're dropping the 2023 edition of the SLU Twitter Think Tank, featuring West Pine Bills, one half of West Pine Bills, and Carter Chapley. And we're going to drop that on, I believe, Wednesday.
We really get into it on that, Zach.
Oh, how long did we go? What was it? 45 minutes. We just sat around and talked before we even took a look at the agenda.
Yeah, it was at least that long. That's so get ready for it, because that's a long.
It is 2.5 hours.
Episode. Yes,
it is 2.5 hours. It is part 1 of parts to be determined. Right. We really don't know how many more. I mean, it may turn into I don't think if we do once if we did it once a month, it wouldn't be special, and we would run out of stuff to talk about. But we will definitely do one more in the next couple weeks at least, and see if we can't get through the notes.
Yeah.
Pete, like I said, it's a big week coming up, but it's also been pretty big week in the past.
It's the time when the fall sports transition, right? I mean, yes. like they're getting into
believes in the sports transition about this time.
It's perfect. Those sports are getting into their playoff season. You know, the home stretch, conference tournaments coming up, all that good stuff. And then you've got the winter sports, basketball, men's and women's starting up, swimming getting into full swing, all of that stuff happening. And it's exciting, Zach. It's like because basketball season comes into focus. It becomes real right as you now have these tournaments and playoffs and things for soccer. I love this time of year for us.
So before we get really digging into more recent stuff, I want to close the book on the Champion Center, because we've probably gone through 2 episodes already deep talking about it. But one thing that I love, I don't love it about SLU, but John Bell is so good at both coaching track and field and being a sports information, like a pseudo sports information director along with it. He's always tweeting out results. He's always keeping people abreast of what's going on with track and field.
I appreciate it. He's just very no nonsense, right?
Yeah.
It's just like information. Yes. You want information, you go to him, and he helps us out, because like there's only so much you and I, not having gotten in the building, can say about the Champion Center. And he gave us his perspective as kind of an insider, Zach, and it was really, really helpful to add on to and sort of illuminate or even highlight the things that we got wrong about the Champion Center.
I think we should go down these bullet points, and I'll take one, you take one, and we'll just go down the line.
Yeah, let's do it.
So first up is the Student Development Center more than triples the academic space in Chaffetz. 4 conference room for small group work or private tutoring session, office space for academic advisors. Career services will have a room for mock interviews, technology for athletes to have Zoom interviews, whether they be career or NIL. with appropriate background and stable internet, or just quiet private space for on-campus interviews.
The Billikens Sanctuary is space for the student athletes to come together in a non-athletic environment. The Jesuit scholastics or team chaplains have office space there and space to work with those students who are seeking more spiritual growth.
Did someone say office space?
I believe so.
Okay. All right. The Billiken Nutrition Center is a full-service dining hall where our dietitians work with Delaware North to provide breakfast and dinners for all student athletes. The meals will be cleaner and designed specifically for athletic performance and recovery. Within the nutrition center, there are soundproofing glass doors that can be closed to have full team meals while the dining hall is still open to other athletes. The fueling station will be open throughout the day for athletes to come grab a snack or drinks if on the go. There's a smoothie and coffee bar there as well.
And then the third floor has office space for the sports psychologists that work with our teams, dietitians, and a counselor as well as a counselor from the University Counseling Center. Men's and women's basketball staff have brand new office suites on the third floor. The Billiken Victory Room is a space that coaches and athletes can meet. Coaches can meet recruits and their families in. There's a massive TV and sound system. Every sport has a highlight video that's dialed up and ready to be played for recruits. There's a digital history there too. And this was surprising to me.
I want to see this. I really want to see this.
Every student athlete that has ever worn a Billiken jersey. So he says it's still being updated because there's so many athletes over the years, but that's cool to me.
That is really cool. I
Yeah.
just imagine the highlight videos that'll be like in a world, like a movie trailer from the 90s.
Yeah.
The bottom floor has a new classroom as well as a film room, all filled with state-of-the-art technology.
And so that's really the Champion Center. But he says there's part 2 of the construction project is a complete renovation of all the office space currently in Chaffetz. Now that some of those functions and offices are moving over to the Champion Center, right? So everyone's day-to-day operations will be vastly improved. The long-term plan is also to add more staffing members in the new or renovated spaces, hopefully. And then, he says, look, from speaking from his own experience already, recruiting has just taken up a whole other level. It's what families want to see, that you're taking care of their kids. And this is an investment that really demonstrates that's what SLU's priorities are and its aspirations, that it really wants to be great. So this for me, I know I could say for sure, like, this is a really helpful perspective, to kind of get just that extra level of detail about what it is, what's going on there, what the long-term impact and plan is. And it sounds like it just up and down the table in athletics, this benefits everybody. And that's pretty cool.
A little bit of an update. Well, first of all, thank you to John Bell for enlightening us. I mean, beyond anything that we could have ever asked for. And I think it's a great thing to do, is to just reach out and just flat out tell people what you're doing, like what this is. That is exhaustive. But the Billiken Victory Fund, they held their event, they held the fundraiser, the $250 meet and greet with the coaches and players and open practice, as well as an appearance from Troy Robertson on Kevin Slayton's show.
Yeah, Zach. So which one of these do you want to cover first? I mean, the Kevin Slayton's show was first, so maybe we should go with that one first.
Yeah, let's go with that one.
So I thought this was a pretty interesting and somewhat illuminating interview, but not necessarily in the way that I would have initially thought, if that makes sense.
Like, it's not, if I would have drawn up an appearance on TV, this isn't, or on radio, I would have not drawn it up like this.
Yeah, so it's clear that these two kind of know each other. I think they even established during the interview that Troy had, because he's a real estate agent, he had, I guess, sold the house or he was the agent when Kevin Slayton bought his house, or most recent house. Is that right? Or was it a house that he was selling? I think
either way, he was involved in a house that Slayton.
Yeah. So they have that, but it seems like they had already kind of known each other anyway. And Anyway, so a lot of the interview, to me, the tone of it was kind of like two guys, longtime sports fans, sort of coming to grips with this is the way that things are, right? And it wasn't. I expected Troy to have kind of a lot more of like a sales hat on, like, hey, we're the Billiken Victory Fund. Here's what we're doing. Here's what we're excited about. But it was really it was a lot of like, hey, this is what NIL is. Here's what the landscape looks like. Here's where we're at a disadvantage in certain ways. Here's our perspective on certain things. It was just a really different, I guess, tenor of the whole interview than really what I expected. Not necessarily am I saying that's good or bad, but it was a little bit eye-opening to me to kind of hear where he was coming from on a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, and I don't know how much of it I enjoyed. I think, again, I talk about how awful these things are to listen for me, because I am set in my opinions and my belief for what I think the Billiken Victory Fund can be and how it needs to approach NIL. And I thought it was a bit defeatist in a little way. I felt like it was a lot of lamenting how much NIL sucks and how difficult of a job it is. And that's okay. Like, it sucks. It's a tough job. Troy has a very difficult, we'll call it a new hobby, because really at the end of the day, he's not getting any kickback from this. He's not, this is him doing it on his private time.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it does, but like, I don't want to tell people that.
Yeah, I mean, he's a volunteer, right? The board that runs the BVF is volunteers, and he sounded almost a little reluctant, like he took this gig a little bit reluctantly, and it is a lot of work. Like that must be acknowledged, and it seems like it's been tough. But yeah, there was a lot of that sort of like weary, like, well, this is what it is, and we're gonna do the best we can with it. But some of the ways when you say it sounded a little bit defeatist, I think one of the things that really stood out to me was their perspective on the Missouri state legislation that we know Mizzou was the most instrumental in kind of shaping up. And Troy saying that SLU's not going to they're going to defer more to the NCAA than Missouri state law, which is actually now a little bit more permissive than the NCAA in terms of Missouri has, for one example, given the green light to compensate high schoolers who are already committed to an in-state program. So if you're, Luther Burden coming from Cardinal Ritter and going to Mizzou, you can already start getting paid in terms of NIL as a high schooler. Missouri's cleared the way for that. And he made it sound like, number one, they're not going to do that. They're not going to start paying high schoolers who aren't on campus yet. And then number two, high schoolers really didn't seem like a focal point of recruiting at all. And we'll get to in a little bit why that seems a little bit contradictory right now. But it just seems like they were more focused. And number one, he said they were focused on retention. And then number two would be transfers. But then he went on to say that, he thought the market value on something like a McDonald's All-American would be $300,000 to $400,000 a year. And then it was even higher for high-level transfers. So just using that sort of framework of like where everybody's value is, a non-McDonald's All-American high school player, right? Like your typical like kind of 3-star recruit, you would think that that player's value relative to a non-top level transfer who would go even higher than an All-American in terms of his NIL, you would think that would kind of be a more value proposition kind of space. So to not even, I don't know, to say you're not really even going after high schoolers it was kind of weird to me, but maybe I'm misinterpreting.
No, I think you're right. And I don't know if they're not necessarily going after high schoolers as much as they're not worried about hey, let's go after these high-end high school players. You know what I mean?
Right.
But it's not like, oh, what do we need to get that, top 100 high school recruit, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think, but I do think that, it's crazy to not just go along with this law. I mean, to be fair, like the rules are changing every day,
Uh-huh.
but they're not going backwards. Like there's
Right.
not there. I don't think at the end of the day you're gonna get dinged for this.
I think that's right. And the other thing I would say is like you have to be honest about where your competition is. And if we're if we keep going back to this, but if the programs that they stated in the beginning we see as our peers that we want to compete with, Creighton, Xavier, Butler, Dayton, I don't know if their NIL collectives are saying we don't we're not going to worry about, the Ohio States or the Nebraskas or whatever the big state schools are in their states, the Indianas. We're not going to worry about those teams and what they're doing and what the state law says. We're going to do our own thing, and it just feels like me that you're never really going to compete at a higher level. Like you have to be honest about where the market is and what your surroundings are. So I'm just curious to see how that develops, because I would hate to just think that they're gonna, they're looking at where we are in the A10 and just being like, yep, this is fine. We
Yeah.
don't aspire to anything higher. I really hope that's not the case, because I think this is doable. And I think we do probably have in the long term, I think we have the critical mass and the donor base. We just need to really ignite them
Yeah.
and make them realize like it's not an undoable amount of money to sustain this program and make it more competitive.
Yeah, I agree. I think that and I think that you have to look at those non-traditional fundraising methods. I think like I've talked about it a million times. Let's do something weird. Let's
Yeah.
throw a kegger. I don't know. But like let's go after, $20 per person for a night. Like
Mm-hmm.
let's go after these middle of the road, they're not booster level, fans, but they have comfortable income, and you get them, and as their income grows, like maybe you get more out of them eventually, but build those recurring customers,
Mm-hmm.
quote unquote. But I just think I want to see them get creative and look outside that major donation. Put a party in every city. Every time there's an you know, uh, big alumni city like Chicago. Anytime we're in Philly, anytime we're in, they throw these parties. Like, forget whatever SLU's doing with the alumni relationships. Let's cancel those. Cancel those.
Mm-hmm.
Just let the NIL collective throw those. Get that money from them. So I don't know. Just get weird. I
Yeah.
just think we're not going to beat them. We're not going to beat programs just going after whales at the beginning. I think we need to just grow it
Yeah.
and grow that base.
Yeah, and one of the points he did make was that they have run into the issue of like big capital campaigns by the athletic department, like the Champion Center, have kind of gotten in the way of their NIL fundraising. He just flat out said, somebody who's just given a bunch of money, it's hard to make that call and ask for more money. Especially if not everybody is entirely comfortable with the idea of NIL yet, and they're still kind of coming to terms with or understanding what it means and why it's important moving forward. So he did acknowledge that, and you and I had both, hypothesized that was probably a
Oh
thing.
yeah.
Like at all, like we can read the room. We knew that was going to be an issue. So I think that was kind of an illustration. But at the same time, like, look, we always say it's got to be all of the above, right? Like when you're talking about these events to get your kind of low to mid tier people, that shouldn't be at the expense of chasing the big fish, and vice versa. Like you shouldn't just be focused on the top tier at the expense of a larger mass of alumni, season ticket holders, and fans. Like there's a way to get everybody involved, and I think they're still trying to figure that out. But it just sounded like he's probably It's probably been a little more competitive, time consuming, and just generally overwhelming than he expected, I think, is kind of the impression that I got. And I if I'm wrong, let me know otherwise, Troy. But I just think it's been dog eat dog out there in this young NIL world, and it's changing rapidly. He said he doesn't think it's sustainable and that it's all going to change within the next 3 to 5 years. And that's probably true, but we don't exactly know how. So I think you can only play the game that's in front of you right now, and always have an eye on how things are changing. I think that's just kind of how it has to be.
I'd be interested. And when we can get him on the show, I would be interested to get a prediction out of him on where he thinks it's going to go.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I think everybody has their hypothesis,
Sure.
and theories, but
yeah, and that might be one of the reasons like why more people haven't started to be more forthcoming with their giving to this sort of thing. It's like, well, if I think this is going this direction in this amount of time, maybe I don't want to throw money at it.
And what happens what happens to all that money when like NIL switches to just payroll?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I mean, do you just donate it back to the university as payroll money? I mean, to be fair, that might actually like work out decently and not be a complete cluster. It goes back to the university as a donation, and you come up with the Billiken Victory Fund. Put the name Billiken Victory Fund Baseball, Billiken Sports Center by the Billiken Victory Fund or something like that.
Right.
We just spent about 5 minutes talking about how they weren't going to prioritize NIL for high schoolers.
I know.
And then we get this is the most blindsided I think any of us have ever been by a commitment.
Well, I don't know if I'd say that, because we have had commitments before where we just like think about this past spring, like some of the international players.
Sorry. I mean, like, we were not expecting, we were expecting something different. Like we weren't expecting him. Like we knew he was interested in the Billikens, but like,
correct.
We thought he was headed somewhere else.
That's right. The SLU was in the top 3 for Jaquavis Williford, out of Las Vegas, who's playing at Middlebrooks Academy in Los Angeles, along with Oregon State and UNLV. And we looked at the top 3 and his timeline and everything. And I think the rumors we were hearing is that he'd probably stick with one of the West Coast schools and it would be a couple more weeks. And within 48 hours, he had committed to SLU. and that was it was a happy surprise, Zach. It was late at night on Wednesday, the 18th. He announced his commitment to SLU via his Instagram account and shows us over those other 2 schools. He had just confirmed that those were his final 3 a few days prior. So again, that's why kind of the timing was a bit of a surprise. Just to sort of refresh on him, he's listed at 6'6", but he's got the kind of frame to me that maybe it's just my eye, but it looks like he's growing still. Like he's growing into his frame. He's long, he's athletic, he's skilled. Scores on 3 levels. He's got a consistent left-handed jumper, got some range, a little bit unorthodox form, but really, really consistent. Good mid-range game, and he's a strong finisher with a lot of bounce. He's a versatile vocal defender, and it's a really nice first piece in that 2024 class. You hope we can hang on to this guy for almost a full year, because I look at a player like this as somebody with a lot of upside. And he's just really intriguing to me in that way, and I'm excited about this commitment.
Yeah, the people I talk to about this kid they just say that he is complete, and I think that the image that he used in his commitment was perfect. From what I've gathered, he is completely obsessed with basketball.
Yeah,
obsessed with it, and I think that's the kind of player you saw, or the kind of attitude you would see when Majerus was here. You talk about you had to be just an absolute basketball junkie. Like, I mean, truly a basketball. I don't mean like you love to watch basketball. I mean, you like you have to, like, it has to be your favorite thing on earth to deal with a guy like Rick Majerus on your ass every practice.
That's right. And to go back to that image that you're referring to from his Instagram, it's a picture from his visit to SLU. He is laying on the floor. His head is on a basketball. His hands are over his chest, knees up, and he's kind of laying there on the floor. The hoop is behind him. And in this one, because there's a lot of black space in the top and background of the photo, big, bold, white letters, committed, tall letters. And it's a cool image. And you're right. It just looks like what is he trying to convey there? Like, basketball is all I think about it.
Yeah.
And it's a really cool image. Go follow him, by the way, on Twitter and Instagram. He's at Instagram. It's FEMA _Jaquavis Will. So he cuts off his last name there. And then he's on Twitter as well. If you look up Jaquavis Williford, you'll find him there. His handle is different, but yeah, it's the newest edition. Go find him. Check out these pictures that we're talking about. And Zach, yeah, I really like this commitment. I got to say, I got to hand it to him. And it was really the other element that you touched on that was so surprising. We had just heard a few days earlier the leader of our Billiken Victory Fund say, we're just not focused on high school recruiting as much. And then here we go with our first fall commitment for the high school class. So I'm happy that contradicted what I had feared a little bit, because this is exactly the kind of player that I would, you're beating out schools that, Mountain West, what's left of the Pac-12, you're beating out schools that are kind of at our peer group. And there's a lot, I think if we're focused on retention, if you can get a high schooler in like this, maybe a guy who's a late bloomer, a little bit under recruited overall, get him in. And then once he turns out to be a nice player, focus on retaining him and not losing him to a bigger program. If that's what you're saving up your funding for, I really think that you can build a roster that way, and there's value to be had rather than overpaying for a grad transfer who might or might not work out. So kudos to the staff, Victory Fund, everybody who was involved in this. I like this a lot.
Open practice. Let's talk about players that are on the roster right now, Pete. October 20th from 4 to 6 p.m. The Billikens opened up their practice. And I am hearing that it was a lot of pressing and a lot of up-tempo basketball, Pete. I might be believing that in year number 8, Travis Ford has finally told us the truth.
He's got what he's got on this roster, and he's going to play to their strengths, huh?
I think so. I don't think he has a choice right now.
So just to be clear, you weren't able to make it down there for any of it?
No, I went for a run instead. I decided I said, you know what? I'd rather torture myself 30 times 1 minute up the hill, 1 minute down.
That's fascinating to me. I would rather do anything on earth than run.
That is why our show is the best.
It.
We bring very different mentalities.
Yeah,
to the show.
I don't think anybody has seen me before and mistaken me for a runner, but nevertheless, Zach, I would have been happy to sit in the gym and watch this.
I also wouldn't, to be fair, I wouldn't have gotten down there till like 5:30, 5:45.
So you would have missed most of it anyway.
Nah.
So okay, so let's run through some of these players. So you're saying that you're hearing they're playing faster, but what are we hearing about individual players? It seems like there's two guys in particular who seem to universally get the most praise out of everybody who is seeing this thing.
Yeah, Hughes and Parker, glowing reviews for these guys. I think Matt Rocchio, is that who it is? Called him Westbrook Light. That was Sincere Parker. He was talking about. Parker they said he was scoring from everywhere. He obviously could be the leading scorer. Jimerson was last year, but if they're dual threats, that's fantastic. And that'll be huge. Because surprisingly, we really only had one scorer last year. I don't think anybody thought that was going to be, you know what I mean? Like, we didn't have dual, or we didn't have, I think we thought there was going to be a leading scorer every game. It was just going to be different. And it really wasn't.
I think last year what it came down to is we thought we were getting Javante Perkins as we knew him before his knee injury back. Javante at his pinnacle. And we just didn't have that. He didn't have that burst. He was clearly not 100% himself. He was tentative on his knee. He just wasn't the same player. And had he been, the idea of him and Jimerson out on the wings is just like, it's too much to contend with, right? And then you surround him with all these role players. So you see why heading into the season last year, we had all this optimism, and it just didn't work out like that. Perkins just wasn't there. But if you've got a guy like Parker who could step up and now be that across from Jimerson, and if Hughes can shoot like he did in this scrimmage where he just couldn't miss, that's a big X factor. If he can stay on the floor, I heard his defense was good too, by the way. So that's how you're going to stay on the floor for a Travis Ford team. But if you can defend, keep yourself on the floor, and consistently hit a jumper like that, you can kind of see where this backcourt could be a little bit of a problem. Like 1 to 3, we could be dangerous, and we're just talking about the first couple guys here.
Yeah, I think I'm optimistic, man, about the backcourt. I feel like it's just going to be this season just feels like, man, if we had a front court, man, people are going to be like, Zach, shut the hell up, dude. You said that 50 times, but it's true.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, look, we're worried about the front court in a few different ways right now. They're young, they're not fully healthy, and they're not fully eligible. And those 3 things have us all like kind of concerned. And it's a shame because we have the opposite problem at guard. It's like everybody's healthy, everybody's ready to play, and everybody looks really good. And it all amounts to a lot of depth.
Yeah.
Tim Dalger, I guess we'll get to him.
Yeah.
People thought he was solid, like kind of a guy who just does a little bit of everything. And he seems to have a good energy, good team player, a lot of good positive vibes, good spirit out there. I think he'll be a nice addition. I don't think he's the kind of player who's going to put up giant numbers or anything like that, but it sounds like he's going to fit a really nice role on this team.
Yeah. I didn't realize that Dalger was as tall as he is. He's 6'6".
Yeah. Right.
It's funny that TJ's playing center and Dalger's taller than him.
Yeah. And it was so interesting to me that, Ford and everybody else keeps talking about Hargrove as the guy who would fill in that spot. I'm like, well, Dalger's at least 2 inches taller than him, right? But look, he's never really played that role before either, though. So he's always kind of a wing forward.
And Hargrove did for a hot minute play that at times he played that role for East St. Louis.
Well, he did everything for East St. Louis, like he played for a different coach every year for the team. I mean, he did everything for that team. So there's no question that he's got that sort of versatility and that willingness to step in and do whatever he's asked. I don't question that at all about Hargrove. I just feel like if we're lining him up out there like that more than one time, it speaks to bigger issues with the roster.
Yeah. I am excited about Sion Medley. I mean, if he can be, 75% of like freshman Yuri Collins, I'll take that all day, every day.
I think he's pretty clearly going to be the point guard that they're moving forward with, right? Like they've got Mike Meadows to kind of help him in this bridge year as he's a freshman. And look, people liked what they saw out of him. He is small. He's small, right? And he's still getting up to speed offensively, but he's quick, he's skilled. I really liked what I saw from him in all of his high school highlight videos. And a lot of that is helped by the fact that he was surrounded by like some of the highest level talent in high school. Like that, his team was stacked and that helps, but he moves really well. He's a really athletic kid. He's not big, but you do not have to be a big point guard to thrive in this league. We've seen it time and time again. Just about every team in the A10 by now has had a under 6 foot guy in the last decade who has really done well at the point guard position. So I'm not too worried about his size. I think he's going to be fine. It's just going to be a little bit of a learning curve.
You mentioned Meadows. He ran the point for the other team, and the reviews were again much like Dalger, solid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a guy who he's had games in college, big performances against big opponents, and I don't know if I'm expecting him to have if any of those at SLU where he just goes off. I just don't know if that's, you know, I think this is a little
Isabel?
bit deeper
Isabel time?
backcourt. Sure, if he wants to be late season Isabel, I'm all for that. And he can start early in the season if he wouldn't mind. But I just think he's going to be steady, right? Like he's one of those guys, like he puts up fairly consistent averages every year. His numbers don't jump up and down a lot. He's a good free throw shooter, doesn't turn it over a ton. I just think he's going to be a really steady presence there to kind of play that combo guard along with you know, if Medley's going to be the one.
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit on the you know, take care of the basketball, and I think that's going to be big this year. We saw a lot of
Yes.
good things out of Yuri Collins, but one of the knocks on him was, you know, kind of held on to the ball too long, ended up turning it over. And then we didn't have really the defense to make up for those turnovers.
Sure.
Um, talk about Kirchich. He could be the last guy in the rotation, but
Yeah. Yeah. So he's one of those guys, like when we got him and a couple other, you know, like Steph, Magasa, those are the three guys I had kind of penciled in as like no expectations this year, right? Like I just don't know if we'll see much of them. Well, you know, maybe they'll be kind of that you know, we've had international players recently who just haven't come in and played a whole lot. And that's kind of what I was expecting. But he's looked really good. Like he's holding his own in practice, and we're seeing that his shot looks great. And I think people have kind of raised an eyebrow a little bit, like he might be ready to go a little bit sooner than we thought. So he's one of those guys who maybe instead of being like Lawrenson, who like never got in, you know, down at the end of the bench, maybe he's a guy who you can't keep out, you know, the whole season, and he winds up getting 8-10 minutes pretty consistently. I you know, wouldn't mind seeing that at all. If we're going to go pretty deep at guard, then yeah, we're going to need to run them all.
yeah, I always hope that like some of these guys like come in with a little more not necessarily experience, but a little more um God, maturity.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's a little more mature game over in Europe, in the under 18 side of things. I just feel like you're brought up a little quicker, you're treated a little more like a professional
Yeah.
earlier than you are
Yeah.
here.
Well, it's a lot more of a quasi-professional structure, right? I mean,
Right.
like, and I think that's starting to kind of happen over here, the way AAU is evolving, and players are just traveling a lot more, and they're having to grow up a little bit faster, and those kinds of things. So I do think we're probably catching up to that side of things in that sense. But yeah, I don't disagree with you at all. Like those guys have by the time they're at this point, they speak multiple languages. They've been all over Europe and probably all over the world, and it's just, yeah, it's a different, if you also wind up playing against bigger, older, more experienced guys in a lot of ways too. So not entirely surprising to see that he's got some toughness, and if his shooting there is there and he's not a liability on defense, he'll see the floor.
Somehow we still know more about Jack the Ripper than we do Kellen Thames.
How is he so mysterious? I watched him play so much in like AAU and everything, and I don't know what it is, Zach, and maybe it's just vibes. Maybe I'm just not listening or reading or hearing the right things. I'm just not hearing a whole lot about him coming into this season, and that hasn't really changed after the scrimmage. People just kind of said he was fine.
I It's insane because I mean, is it just that he doesn't? I, I don't know. I really don't know.
I mean, when we got him, I thought of him as a developmental kind of player because the word was that he was still growing. And you know, he's a versatile player. He does a lot of things well. I kind of like what's there, but yeah, I do want to start as a sophomore, start seeing him more, right, and kind of
Yeah.
see who he is and what he's going to do. But yeah, I don't know. It was kind of interesting to me that just didn't see his name coming up much.
Um, talk a little bit about Jimerson and Hargrove. Jimerson didn't seem to have a great practice.
No,
But some interesting news about Hargrove.
Jimerson's shot really wasn't falling, which, you know, happens. It's fine. But I think
We've
with both
seen
of
that before.
Right. It happens. Shooters shoot, and not every night is your night. But people said Hargrove. The one thing that was a little surprising is he looked like he's bulked up a little bit
Yeah.
more. Um, and
It's
and
interesting because, there was that point, there was a point made last season where he talked about how he had kind of gained weight and he had cut a bunch of weight.
that's right. Right.
So maybe this was just a body recomposition, as they say in the lifting world.
Yeah, it could be. And I mean, it's if they're talking about playing him in the front court more, then he certainly was wise to bulk up. And I don't know how intentional that was all along. But nonetheless, hopefully he's ready for that different kind of physical challenge.
Um, let's talk about Ezewiro. It's an interesting, yeah, let's talk about Ezewiro because we really don't even know if he's gonna be available or when,
Yeah.
if at all.
And this was an interesting one to me because it was the least consistent of all of the players, like between private messages, texts, public, people speaking on the forum or Twitter or whatever about what they saw in this practice. It was the most, some people thought he was really good and that he's a load inside and everybody else is going to have trouble stopping him. Some people thought his body language was bad and that he just didn't look good and that if he's the guy, we're in trouble. And I was just like, wait, what is going on here? So what we do know is he has a really big, strong frame. That part is undeniable. We also know he could step out and shoot the three. He did that a little bit. So it just really comes down to who do you believe, or were you there? What did you see? And I would like to know more, but yeah, the waiver really hangs over everything here until the waiver's resolved. We just don't know if he's going to be available this year or not.
The one thing I heard is that he could be that kind of guy that fades into the background on some games and you'll wonder where the hell he went. And then other games he'll really, if he's locked in on a big game, like he can be aloof. That was kind of the kind of the gist of what I was told.
Yeah, and foul
Again,
trouble plays a role in that too. Like if he could stay out of foul trouble, that's a good way to not that are a good way to stay more locked in.
yeah. Steph Van Bussel appears to be a work in progress. But actually we're hearing that Abu Magasa might be kind of really flying under the radar right now among Billiken fans.
Yeah, I think both of these guys were seen as more developmental bigs. And
see, I thought Steph, I think maybe Steph didn't just because he's like European, and I just automatically go with Martin Linson. Like
well,
he
so
speaks Dutch.
yeah, he's like 6'10". He's big. He's got a really big frame. And I know we commented on that when we first got him, right? And I remember watching the video on him and thinking he looks pretty good. He looks sound. But I think the game speed and everything is just going to take a while for him to catch up to. Magasa is a total mystery. And he's another one where he when we first got him, people were wondering how tall he was because there were differing listings of his height. And my point at the time was normally you go with the higher one because these guys are teenagers, they grow. So like there are recruiting sites and scouting services and things like that don't get updated. So you generally go with one that's taller because they're probably more recent. And so then he comes over and he's listed at 6'6" on the roster. And then people at the scrimmage were like, no, he's taller than 6'6". He's got to be. So here we go again with questions about heights and his in particular.
Chicanery.
But everything they said was that he actually looks like he might be ready to go sooner than Steph. So who knows?
Zhang did not play. Overall, it seemed like people were again optimistic about the backcourt, fear and uncertainty about the front court.
Yeah, I think what happened here is all of like at a high level, those sort of pre-existing notions about the team were more or less reinforced, right? Like people thought, well, we're going to be strong at guard. They come out and they're like, whoa, we might even be stronger than we thought. and people are like, we're going to be a little challenged in the front court. And, I think that was reinforced as well, or at least there's just a big cloud of uncertainty over the front court at the very least.
Yeah, I think a lot of the negativity in the offseason is clouding, and the negativity is warranted, and I've been guilty of it. But I think it's overshadowed. The Brock Weiss, the CJ Noland, the kind of the stuff about eligibility with Ezawero has really clouded how good Gibson Jimerson really was last season. How good and surprising Larry Hughes was.
Yeah.
You looked offensively at what Sincere Parker did, and in limited minutes, it was fantastic. So I think that really has clouded a lot of that where that optimism could come from.
I mean, really, to me, this just kind of reminds me, like, I'm excited for the season to start and to kind of see what these guys do, because like Parker is one of those guys where you can see he's being let off the leash this year, right? And he's one of those guys in JUCO, when you just kind of let him go and do his thing, he could really go off. And he never really got that opportunity. So even in limited minutes, where he winds up averaging more than TJ Hargrove, despite playing considerably fewer minutes a game, you could see it there, right? But he just didn't stay on the floor that long. This season, he's off the leash, and I'm really excited to kind of see what he does with that opportunity. We know Jimerson. We know what he can do. There's no denying that he's going to be a force to contend with. The league knows that he was first team all conference preseason. Like, they know it. I'm sort of excited to see what these other guys do with their opportunity is really what it comes down to. Yeah.
We have basketball. It's not necessarily meaningful basketball in the scheme of the season. Excuse me. However, we have 2 exhibition games this week, Pete. Yeah. And we are going to give you a full rundown of their teams. I'm kidding. We're not. That is ridiculous. I do not give a flying shit about Kentucky Wesleyan or Berea College. They play, other than we better kick the living crap out of them. 10-24, that's Tuesday night against Kentucky Wesleyan. And then Sunday at 5 p.m. against Berea College, I believe.
Yeah, so Kentucky Wesleyan on Tuesday night is at 7 p.m. And then that is Sunday the 29th at 3 p.m.
3 p.m. Oh, thank God.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to the City game that night.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. Good. I'm glad they're not competing with that. Kentucky Wesleyan's a little past Evansville, just to kind of give you an idea, down in Travis Ford country.
Oh, yeah. And we talked about how Berea College has an interesting setup for tuition or lack thereof.
They do. You should look them up. They're interesting. Go Mountaineers. Not in this game, but
yeah, no. Let's talk about what we want to see out of the roster. Let's start with the flat out returners, the returners we know about. Gibson Jimerson, what do you want to see that tells you what in the reports from this game, because you're not going to see this game, unfortunately, not streamed anywhere. Gibson Jimerson, what do you want to see from him?
Well, you've gotten the notes here, Zach, defense, and I got to agree with that. I mean, like, I thought he really stepped up his game, and we talked about this a few different times last season. He stepped up his game in other ways, right? Like, he just wasn't a shooter. He was great, including defense. He was really good off the ball last season. He and Yuri had a good thing going. We just want to see him take the next step on defense. I think he's one of these guys. Look, he's 6'5", 6'6". If he can defend, I got to think NBA teams know this guy's name and are going to want to see him in summer league and what he can do. And maybe they want to kind of let hang on to him on a G League roster or something like that. You just cannot deny his shooting ability, his quick release, his high release. if he could defend and like really, show that he can hold his own against sometimes guys who are bigger than him, I think that's going to go a long way, not just for Slew, but for him. I mean, he could have a career in this sport for a long time.
Dear Lord, if Gibson Jimerson becomes a good defender, this is kind of funny because it'll be now 4 years that I've been doing podcast about the Billikens, and it would make me a little bit of a profit. I think I said when he came in that he had the best chance of his class to make the NBA.
Oh, for sure.
And
yeah.
I think that defensively that would a couple steps up on defense would put him square on the radar of a lot of organizations.
Yeah. And if I could add to that, I think what else I would want to see is that he can still create and get his shot and be productive when Yuri isn't running the point. We just don't know what he looks like with another point guard. So that's what's interesting to me too.
Oh, and also I do want to see him kind of take that step on offense where he does create a jump shot a little more. He did a little bit of that and he did a lot of driving to the basket. But I want to see him, with the ball in his hands a little bit more, be a little more dangerous with the ball in his hands off the dribble. Larry Hughes too.
So from him, I would want to see somebody who, number one, I want to see him defend, right? Like we're hearing his defense is good.
Yeah.
We're hearing his shot is really good, but I want to see him sort of build out that guard skill set a little bit. At first in the offseason, we're hearing we might see him play some of the one, and I did not see that in him last year at all. I kind of see
really.
Yeah, I know, and I don't agree with everybody on this. I know not everybody sees it the same way I did, but I thought he was kind of loose with the ball. Like he just didn't have a really strong on-ball presence, if that makes sense. And I didn't see a whole lot out of his passing ability last year. So I just kind of want to see him prove himself more as an all-around guard. But yeah, if he winds up being a 3-and-D guy too, certainly he's got size and ability and stuff like that.
He's got the pedigree.
Yeah, I want to see him build out his guard skill set. How about you? What do you want to see out of Hughes Jr.?
I want to see a leader. I want to see him step up and be a little more of a presence on this team. I think I just mentioned that pedigree, and I think he brings so much just osmosis passed down knowledge of the game and just understanding of the game. He's learned from a pro his entire life. I want to see him step up and be a dude like that this team looks to in crunch time and be like, okay, what are we doing? Like you do, what are we doing here? So I want to see him take on that role of being an upperclassman early. Like I think he's got it in him. I want to see it sophomore year.
Yeah. Okay. I like that.
Sincere. What do you want to see out of Sincere? Don't worry about what I have in the notes.
Yeah. But I think I'm going to, I have the notes behind the Zoom window right now. So can't remember what you wrote. But I think we want the same thing. Like I talked about him being let off the leash. I just want to see him cook. That's what it comes down to for me.
Hold up, let him cook.
Let Sincere cook. I don't have super high expectations for his defense. You and I talked to him when he was new about his defense, and he kind of razzed himself a little bit. He was like, look,
God, that feels so long ago.
It does feel long ago, but like he talked about like his JUCO coach was always like, you're as good a defender as you want to be, right? Like, and so he's always been kind of a defense optional player, and I want to see him not be a liability on that end. But I really just want to see him be just an undeniable offensive player who scores on 3 levels.
I thought he showed a lot of that kind of LeBron chase down ability on defense. I thought he was able to defend with his athleticism a little bit. I want to see him be a little more clinical on defense.
Yeah, I think Majerus would say like, well, he shouldn't have to chase a guy down like that.
Fundamental.
You should be keeping him in front of you.
Yes,
right?
That's what I want to see from him. Terrence Hargrove Jr.
This is the one where I would say leadership. He's always been the most vocal player on a team. Like last year's team was not a vocal team, and he was kind of that. Look, this is his last year, right? Like be the leader, be the guy who steps up and owns this team. He's a big personality. He's a locker room guy. He's a glue guy. Everybody loves TJ. I want to see him really be that dude, in terms of his leadership ability. The intangibles that we don't see in the stat sheet. That's what I'm hoping for more than anything out of him this season, because I think this is a team with so many new faces. They really need that anchor, that leadership.
Yeah. I want to see him lead by example too, though. I want to see him lock in on defense. I want to see him rebound.
Yeah.
He's going to have to be a dog on the glass.
Yeah.
He really is, because he's going to, I am terrified that he's going to end up with 1 million over the back fouls this year. If he's going to keep playing the 5 position, but he has got to go to the Jordan Goodwin school of rebounding, undersized rebounding.
Yeah. I like that.
Let's talk about the returners. I just want to see Kellen Thames on the court. Honestly.
Same. Yeah.
I just want to see, I want him to put on his basketball shoes. I want him to take off his warm-up shirt, and I want him to walk out on the court and play basketball.
That's right. I think he has that this season. I'll say he has that kind of role player ability, like I think the pieces are there, but you're right. I want to see who he is. I want to see more of that.
New places for fresh faces. Let's talk about Dalger.
Yeah, so Dalger, I think at Tulsa he averaged about 10 and 5, and I what I want to see from him is energy, effort, efficiency. I want to see him defend. I think there have been some questions about his defensive ability. He strikes me, he's like this all around guy, right? But I just don't know how solid he is. Like I think he does a lot of different things, but I don't want to see him shooting 34% from the field on the season. I want to see a guy who's consistent, who's efficient, and makes good decisions out there. He's another one. He's a veteran, and that's what I want to see from him. It's just to be like, I'm not going to say he's Javon Best, but I want to see him be like just solid like this, right?
Just a guy who doesn't make mistakes.
Yeah,
I want him to be a mistake-free basketball player.
Right.
Mike Meadows.
Yeah, kind of the same thing with him, right? Like, because you're looking at another grizzled vet who's been a few different places and really experienced. I want to see him be the guy who stewards the transition from Yuri Collins to Sion Medley at point guard, right? Like when Medley has the keys next season to be the point guard of this team, I want to see that go well. I want to see that smooth and going against a guy, Medley is small. He's fresh out of high school, going against a guy who's a grad transfer. I think that's good. So I want to see Meadows be solid this year. And I guess the other thing I would add is I want to see him be more productive than some of the other, grad transfer guards we've had in recent years, like a
more of an Isabel.
I mean, well, Isabel took a while, right, before he became that guy. But I want to see him be more productive. Why am I forgetting names all of a sudden? Who is the guard from Central Arkansas? Jones. No,
Jones is still on the roster, bro.
Not Jones. Anyway, I want to see him.
I know who you're talking. Williams. Rashad Williams?
Rashad Williams was just not a fit. We brought in a guy who needs to heat up shooting. He needs minutes and run, and he never really got any minutes. So he was just not really a fit, period. But yeah, Zach, I'm stalling right now because I'm absolutely blanking on names.
It's DeAndre Jones.
DeAndre Jones. Yeah, I had it. Yeah, okay. I couldn't think of his first name. Good Lord. But anyway, DeAndre Jones, I just feel like we didn't get the production out of him that we could have used, and maybe it's just because Yuri was sort of blocking him. But if Meadows is going to be in more or less in that role, which I don't necessarily think he is because he's not sitting behind a Yuri Collins, right? I just want to see more production out of him. Anyway, that's kind of my hope there is good production, but really that he helps us, and our point guard of the future transition smoothly.
Let's talk about the youngsters real quickly because I think there's some where it's just you just get out on the court.
Yeah.
Sion Medley, I want to see him flash some brilliance, have an understanding of what the goal is. I want to see him move the ball quickly.
And I want to see his minutes increase over the course of the season.
Yeah.
I want him to go from the freshman who is learning
We were
to the
just talking about
guy
the
who's
exhibitions,
like,
though.
yeah, we're just talking about the
Yeah.
exhibition
What
games.
do you want
Okay.
to see in an exhibition? Because I mean, there's really nothing to really talk about.
Yeah. Okay. Then
other than
yeah. All right. In an exhibition game, yeah, you're right. I want to see flashes. I want to see his ability. I want to see him move the ball. I want to see him hustle, defend.
Yeah.
All those little things.
I think defend is the one thing we defend the three. I want to see everybody in this group of players defend the three.
Yeah, that's right.
Georgie.
I want to see him
step
shoot
on the court. Okay.
Yeah, I want to see him shoot. I hear the guy can shoot. I want to see him shoot.
Yep. Abu Magas. I want to see flashes of I want to see him step up in this one. I want to see a lot of him in this game.
Yeah,
because
I want to see
if people are saying that he could be a contributor, let's see it.
He's a total unknown to me. Right. So he's just one. I just want to see who he is and what he does. I want to see how tall he is.
Yes. I'm going to go try to find him after the game with a measuring tape. Excuse me.
Can you stand against this one?
Abu, can you give me 1 second? Let me just
shoes
hold
off.
Hold on. I gotta click the thing so it stays, so it doesn't cut my hand.
Yeah.
I want to find out how tall he is. That is my goal for Tuesday night.
Yeah, there you go.
I've left a couple here to the end, and two of them are youngsters, and the third one is the grad transfer. And I would put them all under. I'm putting them all under eligibility in question because all of them at one point have been either in need of a waiver or just general ruling by the NCAA.
Correct.
There's talk that Ezewero's waiver paperwork may not have been submitted in a timely fashion. So I don't know. Again, will he play? And then there were questions on Bruce Zhang and Steph Van Bussel. Steph is one that I actually hadn't heard about until recently, but I know that, one of the major things with bringing in these international players is the school systems in their country. Steph Van Bussel could be an absolute Einstein, but the way that the Netherlands schools in high school and college, it's different.
Sure.
It's just completely different. So a lot of it is trying to explain to the NCAA what that means and why that makes them eligible, why that equals a high school diploma and a grade point average.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's interesting. Again, Steph, I don't know, but the Bruce stuff, obviously there were questions that he played professional. There were some I didn't even understand, to be honest, the quotes from that Chinese article, I didn't even understand.
Yeah, the article is something that we had seen when we first got him. And, I brush stuff like that off because, quite frankly, I don't know the professional system in every other country and how it works and the different tiers and how some is he could play professionally, quote unquote, but still maintain NCAA eligibility if he were to come over here, by a certain age. In his case, it did seem like there was a professional team that had recruited him and paid his expenses to come play for them and things like that. before he came over and played at that prep school in Georgia. So when that article resurfaced, I assumed that was the big issue, right? Like,
yeah.
and that resurfaced right at the same time that he was said to be out with a knee injury. And it was weird timing,
There's
right?
a
And
lot of alarm bells. And then you throw in
that's right. Alarm bells.
and then
all
you
at
throw
once.
in the job posting
Yeah.
on Workday
Yeah.
for a new compliance director. It's
Right.
just all very much, Charlie Day,
Yeah.
connecting the
Connecting the
dots.
red yarn.
Yeah,
Yeah. Right.
it's like like one of those true crime documentaries on
Yeah.
Netflix. Yeah, there were a lot of things. There were a lot of alarm bells that went off, and I mean, I, I believe that just a ruling that really had to be figured out, but it's something that should have been caught and figured
Cleared
out.
by now.
Oh,
Yeah.
I mean, it should have been, if it was an issue coming up recently, like that's a problem. Like
Yeah.
there were message board morons that find that article.
Right. Right. Many of them, like it came to us from multiple people.
Yes.
So like, yeah, a lot of people were like, what's going on? What's going on?
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. Bottom line is like a few different things came up about a few different players in the course of a few days. And it was just like alarm bells everywhere. And we're all wondering what that means for our front court moving forward. Now, the one thing I'll say, the international players, they don't need waivers. They just need rulings from the NCAA to go
Right.
thumbs up, thumbs down. We're all good. We're all set here. Paperwork is signed off. We're good to go. In Brad's case, he needs an actual waiver from the NCAA to be deemed eligible to play. And as we saw with football and as we're seeing with basketball now, these come out at a crawl, right? Like it's not just like on October 1st, everybody finds out their decision and then they can appeal from there. It's like, no. These come out at a trickle, just like one or two at a time. We just heard, like, I live in Cincinnati, and we just heard a few days ago, Cincinnati had 2 waiver requests denied for 2 different players who were going to be key contributors this year. They're appealing, but they were 2-time transfers. So we just saw that a few days ago here in Cincinnati at UC. And so that's kind of a big deal here at the moment. I don't know what it means for Brad. Every case is unique, but I will say that's completely different than the international players. And I think even if the international players wind up having more kind of weird red tape and things like that can carry on and
it's an easier
result in
fix.
It's an easier, quicker fix. You're right. So I'm a little more optimistic about any questions about Bruce and Steph being cleared soon, very soon.
Yes.
With Brad, I do not know what to guess. I really don't.
And with the international players, like no matter what or when that the issue arose, SLU may not have a compliance director right now, but they have Janet Oberly, who
Yeah,
is
and that's
a
her background.
complete compliance genius.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have any specifics, but I know that she works some magic in the Majerus years.
Sure. Yeah.
I know she absolutely worked magic then.
Yeah, so there's no question that that we have senior leadership there who knows what they're doing, and that's good. So hopefully all this gets cleared up sooner than later. But Brad is, to me, that's the biggest, and most concerning question mark.
And the concerning point is that the rumor that it was not filed timely.
Well, I mean, like, look, we had that job posting that suddenly popped up, and you're like, if they're that is the kind of job, it's a university job, athletic department jobs, professor job, like university jobs. You're talking about like those are spring, summer things, right? Like if one comes up in October, that to me implies like, something didn't get done the way it was supposed to, and that's a little concerning. We've seen some recent NCAA basketball coaches all of a sudden being put on leave in October, and usually it's never for good reasons, right? So anyway, we can only speculate on that front.
Correct.
I really think with the international players, we should know pretty soon.
Yeah. That's kind of half the reason I want to go on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Is to find out if we got guys.
Yeah, well, Bruce is still a little dinged up, so he might be a couple weeks out, but
A10 Media Day was Tuesday the 17th. I don't think we need to belabor the point here. SLU was picked to finish 6th in the league with Jimerson as a first-team all-conference selection. Besides the fact that we've given the people an hour of Billiken basketball talk.
There's not much more to say. I mean, really, there's
Yeah.
what else is there to say from this? Dayton was picked first, VCU was picked second. No big surprises overall. I don't know. I thought, like, of all of the preseason rankings we've seen, these seemed a lot less weird than a lot of the other ones. So I don't know. I don't really have any other comments on it other than I'm happy to see Jimerson get first team honors.
I think we finished top half of the league, or not top half, but I think we finished 5th with Ezawero. I really do.
It's very, very likely. I mean, we got to remind people this league is not good right now.
No, it's not. Billikens in the NBA. It's a weird thing to talk about. Technically, Billikens in the NBA/G League.
Sure.
But Yuri Collins signed a contract with the Golden State Warriors. It's a 2-way deal, I believe. Or is it a G League contract?
Yeah. So what you really basically need to know about this is he and a couple other guys signed these contracts with Golden State, and it's going to fundamentally end them up on their G League team, right? Like I don't always understand all of the mechanics of NBA contracts and how they work. And it's a really complicated landscape, for a sport with relatively small rosters. But at the end of the day, what we need to know is that this will make him wind up on their G League roster, and that's a good thing.
Pete, tell us about Jordan Goodwin. What's he up to?
Man, what is he not up to? Like, so look, he goes from Washington, where he had a great opportunity, over to Phoenix, and I think the initial read from Billiken fans was that, like, Phoenix was pretty wide open at point guard, right? Like heading into this season, they had real star power at every other position, and point guard was the one that was a little bit more of a question mark. And we thought, like, Goodwin had a real opportunity in the backcourt to play. But then in the meantime, they make all these other transactions, and you go, well, I don't know. Does he have room here? Does he have room there? All he's done, Zach, is go and do exactly the thing that he did at Washington, was like take this little opportunity and just go out there and give them Jordan Goodwin minutes, offensive rebounds, steals, assists, like just everything.
Poking LeBron in the eye.
Giving a full palm in the face of LeBron James, where it really looks like two fingers and two
disrespectful
eyes.
In the best possible way.
He is absolutely that guy who is a pest and who is going to earn an NBA paycheck for a long time, because he goes out there and just makes himself undeniable.
He's such a throwback. Like he just feels
him.
Like I've never been an NBA guy, but it feels like the 90s when I watch him play, the early 2000s when I watch him play.
But also, like, he's a player. He's just like that automatic fan favorite, right?
Yes.
Like fans like the guys who are a little unexpected, and he's not huge. He's not like this elite lights out shooter or like athlete that you've never seen before. He's a guy who goes out there and plays his ass off, and like you just love him. Like you can't help but love him. Like
he plays his ass off
and
for 40 minutes, and then he goes and signs autographs for 2 hours after the game. Like he's that kind of dude.
He is. Right. So he's really, I mean, immediately he's going to be a fan favorite. You just know it.
He's old, reliable, just like Two Men in the Garden.
Now there's a transition, right? If I've ever heard one.
Hey, I'm getting better at him every day.
Old and reliable, Zach, but they also have new flavors. And I have to talk about smoky barbecue. I had kind of said, like, before, I was a little intrigued by this new flavor on their website, and I didn't really know what to expect in terms of pickles. But what I will say is, if you're getting the smoky barbecue, and I think you should, it's got a bread and butter pickle base. And I didn't really think of this as I got them, because they've got their bread and butter, they've got their more traditional dill pickles, and they've got this smoky barbecue. And I didn't know if it would be a whole new sort of flavor profile. But imagine you take the bread and butter pickles, and then you add this extra dimension that's the smoky barbecue. And that's really what you're working with here. So if you think you're getting more of the acidic kind of dill pickle thing, it's not quite that. It's a little bit sweeter, but you've got the sweet, you've got the smoky. It's a really interesting pickle, I gotta say. And I loved him. And I think you listening to this podcast, everybody, should make it a point to go get a jar of these wherever you can find them. Local grocery stores around St. Louis or at twomeninthegarden.com. Go get the smoky barbecue. I want to hear your thoughts on these because I could pretty much guarantee you've never had a pickle like this before. Really, really unique product from a company that, as Zach says, is very reliable. Twomeninthegarden.com. Check them out.
Women's soccer. Let's kick it off with the women because, boy, they just took their 5th A10 championship in 6 years.
They didn't just take it, Zach, but lately they've they just decided like, okay, this is ours now. They have not conceded a goal.
Still.
Not conceded a goal in, as we pod right now, 4 weeks. And that was that 1-1 tie against Dayton. And since then, they're not just shutting teams out, but they're like scoring more, right? Like their first 2 games out of that tie were a 3-0 win and a 1-0 win. And since then, it's been 4, 5, 6. St. Joe's, today, or I guess yesterday, as you listen, a measly 3 goals and a shutout win. But like,
how dare they?
They took the league again with an absolute statement of an October. And you just have to tip your cap and just admire what they've done yet again.
They are truly incredible. And I mean, the rankings are representative of what they've accomplished. RPI 19, Coaches Poll 22, Top Drawer Soccer 14, College Soccer News. That's a 9-spot increase in RPI, 4-spot increase in the Coaches Poll, and 2 in the College Soccer News poll. And I don't think we're not gonna get through this without talking about Gaebe Island.
She has been extraordinary.
Yes.
You know, what's we haven't really talked about this much, but ever since she, like, one of the big reasons for this shift, like that we talked about, like coming out of that tie and everything, she has now moved to the starting lineup, right? Like she hasn't been starting before, but now they're starting her up top in the middle. And that wasn't the case before. She was always the super sub.
Yeah.
This year, she was that super sub. Come in, give you the energy, give you a downhill player you can't stop. Ever since they started her, Zach, she and Kelly and that Grorg, that up front team up there, Larson out on the other wing, they cannot be stopped. I mean, that's just, its force, its experience, its skill. They know how to play together. And Gaebe has emerged as one of the best all-around players that we've seen in a long time. I mean, like, she has
best ever.
We never talked about her passing before.
No.
Until
Dude, did you see
until
the pass
very
she made today?
I didn't see today's game
because
it was my son's
unreal. I don't know how she found. I don't even know who it was to, but she found her across the field. I have no idea. It was beautiful.
But we talked about her finishing. We always got on her about her finishing. It was like she beats everybody down the field and kicks it right at the goalie. Like, she had done that so much, and she must have heard us, Zach, because her finishing has been
Emily Gaebe, big fan of the pod
lately. I mean, like, she cannot miss, and like throwing darts from across the other side of the net. And anyway, yeah, we'll get to that too. But man, she's been unbelievable lately. And 4-0 Duquesne on Thursday the 19th. Who scores in the very first minute, Zach?
I believe it was Emily Gaebe on assist from Caroline Kelly.
Yeah, I think you here. Sorry, I didn't know you were going to leave it.
Oh, yeah, throwing it to you.
I apologize for those 2 seconds of dead space.
Yeah, throwing it to you for the explanation here.
The Duquesne backline, I think, gets the other assist on this one, Zach. With Gaebe going downhill like she does, they kept backtracking almost all the way into the net.
They're like, she's not going to beat us off the dribble.
Right. If we just make a wall in front of the net, she'll never score, right? Unbelievable to watch them just backtrack until she finally goes, okay, I'll shoot now, and buries it. And there we are, 1-0 in the first minute. And I don't know why you would do that. I know you texted me right away. If I were the Duquesne keeper, I would be so mad right now.
Yeah, it was like, that's one of those that happens on like the half field, like co-ed games.
Yes.
Where everyone can just get so close to the massive goal. and the keeper can do nothing because it's every shot is from the penalty spot almost.
Right.
And you're like, but it was just like they kept backing up. Like, Gabe's not going to beat us on the dribble. Not going to beat us on the dribble. Oh, shit.
Yeah. Oh, we're at the goal now.
Yeah. We've backed up too far. We've gone too far. Yeah. Ninth minute. Guess who doubled her money? It was
Again.
Emily Gaebe.
Yeah, this time no goalkeeper to beat, just two defenders. It started like a lot of the big plays in this game. SLU just pressured Duquesne hard to win every ball, and then they just carved up the defense after that in this one. Anna Lawler to Caroline Kelly to Emily Groark, back to Lawler as she draws the keeper all the way out and got it over to Gaebe with one defender in front of her and another one trying to catch her from behind. And Gaebe just calmly put it away, and it's 2-0 before we're in the 10th minute.
A minute later, Hannah Larson gets a ball in deep to Caroline Kelly. She tipped it in, but it was offsides. On the next play, Kelly made what looked to be very faint contact with the goalie.
Yeah, I didn't see it on the replay even. It was very weird.
Yeah, she went down for a minute, stayed in, but probably came back. What does that say?
She probably shouldn't have because her tormentor came right back at her. Caroline Kelly, like put her on the ground there. I don't know. I still don't know why. Like the Kelly was offsides. Keeper goes down. They come out to tend to her. I don't know what's going on there. But then less than a minute later, Kelly comes out and scores on her. It was like a nightmare for that goalie, right? Like she's already seeing Gaebe over and over. And now here Kelly, phantom foul, injures her and then scores on her in the span of 2 minutes.
This was the one where she passed it around her, right? She kicked it around her and then ran to it, or she kicked it past her and then ran around her.
Around the defender.
This was insane.
Yeah,
this was just ridiculous. No, and she actually no, she didn't play it around her. She literally just ran around them.
Yeah. With the defense, yeah, right.
It was ridiculous. Again, this was like watching a big 10-year-old play against smaller 10-year-olds. It was like watching like early, like a kid who's gone through puberty play against kids that are still waiting.
Right. It
was ridiculous.
Just goofing around with them in the driveway.
It was like you're playing a video game and you pick the best team and then you pick the worst team. And then you can just run around, or you put on easy difficulty.
I was trying
around.
At this point in the game, it's the 11th minute. We're up 3-0. Gaebe and Kelly are putting on a show, but it's like I kind of felt like they were toying with the back line in a way that was like I was thinking about our neighbor's cat, who was like kind of an outdoor cat, and it used to just grab, it would catch birds. It would seriously like catch birds, drag them out on the sidewalk until like you could see that they had them, and just like bat them around until the bird like couldn't even fly anymore, just because it could, like Gaebe and Kelly are like these, like they're just toying.
They're apex predators.
Apex predators toying with their prey because they can, not because they're hungry, but because they can. And it's so funny to watch because like you just felt like Duquesne was absolutely helpless back there. And it was surprising to me that we went so much longer without scoring again.
I was posted up. I usually post up on the scoreboard, end, on the press box side, and usually I sit around in the vicinity of the baseball team, and there was a few of them there, and the joke was, what are they? How many goals are they on pace to score tonight? And it was 27 at one point.
That's what it would be after this 11th minute. Yeah.
Yeah. It was 20 on pace to score 27 goals.
And it kind of felt like it would go that way.
It did. So, yeah. I was very upset that it did not. But it's one of those things where maybe, you take a little something off your fastball and work on the things you need to work on for the A10 tournament, sure, and then going beyond.
Yeah, I think Duquesne had one shot at halftime. I don't remember if it was on goal or not, but SLU had 15 shots and 8 shots on goal at halftime. Duquesne just had essentially nothing.
Um, yeah, not until the 84th minute, off a nice feed from Jess Pricer. Jordan Gary had a clever chip shot that the Duquesne keeper managed to tip up off the crossbar. Now, I actually did this today in Sunday League, except it didn't hit the crossbar. I tipped it over. It was beautiful.
You were the goalie in this case.
Yes, correct.
Oh, okay. I was thinking you were Jordan Gary in this case, who I
Oh
felt
no,
bad for because I thought it was such a well played ball, like really nice ball. But Duquesne's keeper, down but not out, actually made a play on this one.
90th minute, Ashley Koch got the last touch after a mad scramble in front of the net off a corner kick. Slid a few touches attempts, and Duquesne couldn't clear or hang on to the ball. Alyssa Bacchius and Ellie Pelusic ended up with assists. Pete, run us down the stats in this one.
Yeah, by the way, that goal, that was the second time in a row we've seen a freshman score in the 90th minute, their first goal. Yeah, we had that one last week from Macy Lutz. That was kind of a mad scramble in front of the net. But anyway, I thought that was fun. SLU outshot Duquesne 31-4 in this game. Shots on goal were 14-1. Corners were 2-1. Fouls were 10-9. It was safe to say, Zach, it was all SLU in this game.
Yeah, that corners is odd.
Yeah, I know. It felt
weird.
way different than that. But anyway.
The Billikens came back to win on Sunday. Not came back, but they returned to action on
Correct.
Sunday.
Right.
To win 3-0 at St. Joseph's. 22nd minute. Pete, would it surprise you if I said Emily Gaebe scored?
It would, Zach. I don't recall her being a real threat.
No, yeah, not at all. This was actually a real quick strike through ball. It was kind of a turn and just assume Emily Gaebe's going to be running towards net, and
yeah,
sure as hell she was.
And this is that was like the kind of finish where I was talking about too.
Yes.
Just a perfect finish.
56th minute, Emily Gaebe corner kick bounced around in the box and fell to Gaebe, who tapped it in as cool as you like. Then in the 88th minute, this one was a bit of a quick strike as well. Long ball over the top. Sawyer got those fast feet moving in 1v1 and made no mistake. Pete, this had some bizarre things happen in this game. The goalkeeper for St. Joe's had 3 stoppages due to injury. 3. They stopped it 3 times for injury.
And never took her out.
No, they did. They took her out. That's what's bizarre. They took her out late in the first half, or mid first half, and she left the game. They brought in a backup goalie who actually is a lacrosse player at St. Joe's. She came in, was not wearing a goalie jersey. She was wearing a warm-up jersey.
So did they not have another goalie on the roster? It's weird too, because the box score says she played 90 minutes.
No, she came out for 5 to 10 minutes.
Wow.
And they put in this goalie. And then they, by the way, the Suns are planning to waive Keon Johnson.
Okay.
That's news. That's a Woj bomb. So news for Jordan Goodwin.
There you
go. Anyway, yeah. So this player came in and she was like a lacrosse player that played soccer in high school. And I guess they didn't have any extra other goalies. I guess it was like God, I'm blanking.
Like the emergency goalie in the NHL.
Yeah, it was bizarre. She came in.
She comes to the game with her duffel bag.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But it was bizarre. And then they subbed the goalie back on like 10 minutes later.
Okay.
But she went down like 3 times. It was insane. It was a tough day for her. She had 3 goals scored against, and she got roughed up.
Well, and not to mention, like I'm looking at the stats here, SLU 25, St. Joe's 2 in shots, 16-1 shots on goal. She had to make 13 saves, and corner kicks 7-1. Right. Fouls were pretty even in this one, 10-7 St. Joe's. But each team had a yellow. Anyway, this is in line with what we've seen in other recent box scores. And Zach, this is the time I also want to remind people this is not SLU who just had like a front loaded schedule or anything.
No.
Like all of the teams they just brutalized are top 8 teams, like all in
Yeah.
the as we're going to find out in a second here, they're all in the tournament.
Yes, they are. Next up for the Billikens will be the first round, October 27th at Herman. Pete, run us down what happened the last time they played their first round opponent, which is Virginia Commonwealth University.
Yeah, so this one was back in let's see, it was October 1st. It was the beginning of the month, and SLU won 1-0. Was actually their smallest margin of victory since that tie against Dayton about a month ago, excuse me. And the only goal was scored in the 9th minute by Emily Gaebe. This is one where we really held on. And the really strange thing, Zach, is they were outshot 18-12, 6-4 in shots on goal. And I remember this game thinking kind of like this is weird. It just feels different. Like, what's going on here? I mean, they certainly have not played like that since then. I'd like to think this SLU, the way they're playing today, is more formidable than they were, 4 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago when they played this game. But yeah, this for whatever reason seemed to be a little bit tougher opponent than anyone SLU has run into since then.
Who scored the lone goal?
Yeah, that was Emily Gaebe in the 9th minute. So no
So
surprise.
was that one of her first starts? No, should have started.
You know what? I would have to look up. I'm going to look up the
Yeah.
stats right now on that and see what she started 9 games. So no, she already would have been starting by then.
Yeah. Let's run down the bracket here. Obviously we got number 1 St. Louis taking on number 8 VCU. That will be the winner of that game will take on Massachusetts or Duquesne. LaSalle and Rhode Island will go head to head. That's a 2nd and 7th seed. And then number 3 seed Dayton will play St. Joe's. So the Billikens will avoid Dayton until the championship at least. But LaSalle's not too shabby either.
No, I mean, it was key for SLU to win today because you wanted to keep both of those teams, LaSalle and Dayton, on the other side of the bracket. LaSalle has been great in A10 play. Dayton, though, is the one that might be better. It's the team they struggled with. It's the one we got the tie. Dayton is 7-0-3 in conference, so they're behind LaSalle, who's 8-1-1. But the funny thing is Dayton is 12-1-5 on the season. They've only lost once, and SLU has lost twice. I know SLU's probably got a tougher schedule overall, but still.
Yep.
And Dayton, that overall record is better than LaSalle, too, who has lost 5 times. It's just that they really buckled down in conference. So just worth highlighting there that, luckily we can only see one of those 2 teams. And I'd probably honestly rather see LaSalle. I don't know if I'd want to play Dayton again.
Although, I mean, Dayton's been out for blood, feels like. They're just tired. They're just sick and tired.
Right.
Let's move over to the men's soccer. Pete, run us down the rankings for this week.
RPI is at 24, down from 20 last week. Coaches poll, they're not ranked, but they're 29th based on votes received. They had cracked it to just the top 25 to be 25th the prior week. Top Drawer Soccer, they're unranked again. They were 21st last week. And then College Soccer News, they also dropped out. They were 31 last week based on votes received. So the issue here is that Loyola loss, right? That's kind of what dropped them and everything.
Yeah, we really thought, and you look at, the games from this week, and the Billikens had a really big opportunity. Davidson dropped a match to UMass.
Yep.
And that meant that if the Billikens could beat the Flyers, they would take over sole possession of first place. And unfortunately, they ended up with a 0-0 draw against Dayton on the 21st.
Yeah, and they may have been lucky too, Zach. I mean, Galen Flynn, again, on the goal line, saved what very well could have been a goal in the last minute.
It's bizarre how often this is happening.
Yeah, like it's him, it's the goal line, it's late in games. I don't know what's going on there, but he saved them again. And yeah, it's disappointing because like Dayton's a mid-table team, right? Like they're not as strong as they are on the women's side. They're kind of a 500-ish team, and they tie a lot. And it's just, I don't know. Look, SLU's men's team it's a different team overall. They're not blowing teams out of the water, but it's still a game I thought they would have had more control over, and it was pretty evenly matched just watching it. I don't know if you disagree, but it was alumni weekend and it was Socktoberfest. So all fans 21 and over at this game were able to sample Anheuser-Busch products on the hillside on the north end of Herman Stadium. Zach, tell me you took advantage of that.
Traffic, man.
Oh, you didn't get there in time?
Dude, I left at like 6 and I didn't really get there until like 6:45.
Oh,
It was
nuts.
ridiculous. I mean, like this whole weekend has been an absolute cluster down there. Thursday night it was some speaker
Hmm.
or whatever, and it was packed. And then God bless people for not taking that parking spot in front of that hotel. Like there's one spot that people
Yeah.
won't take because
Yeah.
there's no meter.
Right.
And since it's closed, who gives a shit? Um, but yeah, so I parked there and thankfully got over there. But and then Saturday, I don't remember John Party. I don't know who that is, but
No idea.
yeah, I didn't get really there to. By that time, I was like, I'll just go sit down. Um, yeah, I like this idea though. I like the idea.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
It's a nice event for alumni weekend,
What I would
rivalry
say,
game.
what I would say is I would probably put a bigger sign. I would get some signage because
Mhm.
there's the Bud Light signage over there, but there's not like anything that says like, "Hey, over here, guys, come on
Yeah.
over, come on." So it just the way it was up there just kind of looked exclusive.
Mhm.
So and I would
Gotcha.
move the barricades. The barricades were kind of in between the field and the like. If you're gonna put something up there, you got to include it in the stadium
So you
because it
had to know
looks.
what was going on, basically.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that to me is a problem.
Yeah.
But it's a nice idea.
Well,
Uh,
what about the game itself? I mean, in a
I
0-0
thought
tie, you're
Dayton
not getting a
killed
whole lot
us
of
the first
commentary.
half.
Yeah.
I thought Dayton killed us the first half. I thought we were bad that first half and came out and started to really dominate and attack the goal. And I mean, the Billikens had their opportunities. They just couldn't put it away.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a shame. I mean, I think both teams had some chances here. Clearly, we already talked about one from Dayton. When you look at the stats, 16-10 in shots in Dayton's favor, 7-6 in shots on goal. Corners, SLU actually had 7 to their 6. And then Dayton had 12 fouls to SLU's 8. Both teams had 2 yellow cards. Watching this game late, both teams had very, very good scoring chances late in the game. So it's surprising. I mean, it could have gone either way, but the fact that it was scoreless in the end is, I think, the most surprising part. Just kind of based on what I was seeing there. So disappointing all around, right? To have that opportunity. I mean, number one, it's Dayton. I can't speak for you, but I hate Dayton more than any other
I think you
school.
can speak for me just fine.
Yeah, I don't care if it's like if we're playing chess or if we're playing tug of war or whatever. I want to
High
beat
lie.
Dayton. I hate Dayton. So that's disappointing. But with first place on the line, the 1 seed on the line, to be in control of your own destiny after this game, potentially, if you can win, it's just a real bummer to watch them kind of lose that chance. So disappointing. It's not the end, anything like that. Their RPI is still strong, but man, yeah, they really gotta take care of business the last few weeks here.
And I think it's going to be a tough ask for them to get that 1 seed because next up for the Billikens is in conference. That is St. Joe's. They are 4th from the bottom, which would be good, except Davidson plays Rhode Island, who
Yeah,
is 2nd from the bottom of the standings, has 1 win in conference. So,
you
I
need a
mean,
small
a
miracle. Yeah,
miracle would be nice. I believe it's at Davidson, but I could be wrong there.
yeah,
Um, I believe Davidson has the home match. Davidson sits atop the table 5-2. The Billikens and VCU tied for 2nd, with the Billikens holding the tiebreaker for 1-2. UMass 4-2-1, Loyola Chicago 3-1-3. Fordham and Duquesne at 3-2-2. Dayton 2-1-4. Love to see it. St. Bonaventure, George Mason and St. Joe's all 2-4-1. LaSalle and Rhode Island 1-4-2. And then George Washington is just utter garbage at 5-1. Speaking of utter garbage, it was hilarious to see on Twitter the guy taking firing barbs at the women's side. Was it GW and I don't know who they played. Davidson. I think it was GW
Davidson.
and
It was
Davidson.
Davidson.
And it's like, what are you talking about? You guys are both, your seasons are both over. Like you are irrelevant.
Was that wasn't the one where someone
Retweeted it from a burner
from a
account?
burner? Yeah, the burner had the same name. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, you're right. It's the irrelevant match down there.
It was bizarre. Next up, Tuesday, the 24th, versus Blackburn, and 28th against St. Joe's. Pete, let's move on to volleyball. And I think both of us looked at this weekend as, oh boy.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, as much as we hate Dayton and want to beat them at everything, their volleyball team's undeniably good. Number 16 in the country. They heading into the weekend, they were on a 15-match win streak. The only two teams they've lost to were both ranked at the time, and they're right now they're number 5 and number 22 in the RPI. That's Louisville and Marquette. Marquette was a little bit stronger when they played them, but regardless, Dayton's volleyball team is very, very good. They're absolutely running away with the conference. So yeah, we circled these dates, we looked at them, and it just kept getting more and more intimidating the closer you got. But Zach, despite the results, I think there were at least some positive takeaways, right?
Oh, definitely here. You mentioned hating Dayton, and you could see it in Coach Andrea Beatty's demeanor on the sideline.
Yeah.
She was as much of a fan watching that game. She was as much of a fan watching that game as like I was on my couch. Hanging on every point, getting up every time we win a point, and just firing. I thought I really want to see that more. I saw it a lot out of the VCU head coach early in the conference season, and I was like, oh man, like I think our team would respond to that as well. So it was really nice to see Beatty bring that energy, and I thought they really did. I mean, this team looked game from the third set of the first match through the fifth or the fourth set of the second match. But I missed the first two sets Friday night. But the Billikens dropped them 15-25, 17-25. And then really showed up in that third set, dropping it 25-22. Again, this is against a Dayton team that had not lost a set since September 22nd. I think it was 28 straight sets, right? I think, yeah.
At that point, yes.
Yes. And yeah, I mean, 25-22, and they looked good doing it. They served out of their minds. It was phenomenal. Emily Hankin had 12 kills. Addie Lyon had 19 assists. Rogers had 13 digs. Again, the service was on point. Not a lot of errors. They were passing well. A little bit of service reception issues, but other than that, I thought they looked really nice in that first game.
Yeah, for sure. And they kept that going into the match on Saturday. And Zach, I think you thought they were a little more competitive throughout this whole thing.
Yeah. They were fantastic in this match. Like I literally sat down ready to watch a 3-set, just all right,
right.
Whatever happens. And I mean, I was into it big time. 3-1 loss. That first set, they were in it until really I think it was 1919 at one point, or maybe like 1917. And Dayton just ran away with it. They're that good, man. They've got so many weapons. But the Billikens snapped that 30-set win streak for Dayton in the second, 29-27. And this one, I mean, there's so much to this set that goes into, that speaks to the resilience that this team is learning to have, because I've talked about a lot. Like I didn't see a lot of mental toughness or a lot of resilience from the squad. And there was a point in that second set where The Billikens had a chance. I believe it was post 25 all, where Dayton, or no, maybe it was earlier than that. So Dayton went up like 3. I think they went up like 23-20. And that 23rd point was a play where one of the Billiken players pancaked it. That's where you put your hand on the floor and let the ball just hit your hand. And nobody called it. No indication from the officials. So they played on. And then the Billikens won that point. But the officials came together and decided that Dayton won the point, that the ball went down, which is ridiculous. They should have replayed it. There was no reason to outright give that point to Dayton.
Right.
But they go up 23-20, I want to say, at that point. And you're thinking, oh, man, here we go. They're going to just run away with it. And nope, Billikens came back. They fought back from a couple of set points for Dayton there and ended up winning 29-27. And a lot of expletives followed by for me. I was up off the couch yelling at the TV. It was fun. It was a lot of fun.
29-27 is intense, man.
Yeah, it is. Volleyball really is that. It's so, like, when it gets past 25.
Yeah.
Oh man, I would put extra points in volleyball to like sudden death hockey.
Oh,
like
for
I
sure.
would put it on par with the level of butt puckering that goes on watching it.
Yeah.
I remember the Blues Game 7, Pat Maroon. I mean, you just forget to breathe at times.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
19-25 though in that third set, and then in the fourth set, Dayton takes the match 25-18. Kayla Richardson had 16 kills. Lyon had 43 assists. Rogers had 21 digs, becoming the all-time leader in digs at St. Louis University with 1685, passing my girl Whitney Barons. I thought one note on this one is we talked how much we had liked the way Addie Lyon was setting. In this match, Kate Opperly made an appearance, and they were running with both of their setters in the match. And Opperly served really well in that second match. So she made a reappearance in the lineup.
Nice.
As we mentioned, SLU snapped a 30-set win streak for Dayton, dating back to September. Dayton, again, only lost 2 matches this season. Louisville and Marquette, which are number 5 and number 22 in the RPI, respectively. The last team to take a set off Dayton was Loyola. Run us down the stats on volleyball.
Yeah, so Dayton's, as we said, still in first place, 11-0. Loyola and Loyola's alone in second at 9-2. VCU's 8-3, and then you get to Davidson in fourth at 6-5. Fordham and Duquesne are behind them at 5-6. SLU and George Washington at 4-7. George Mason is 2-9, and Rhode Island's in last at 1-10.
Pete, tell us about field hockey's nice little weekend.
Yeah, before we do, volleyball is playing Loyola again on the 24th at Loyola.
That's right.
And then Friday and Saturday, they're at home against Rhode Island. So that sets up pretty nice, actually. We knew we had this Loyola return game. It's going to be a hard one, but you do have the Rhode Island, the cellar dweller of the A10, hopefully to help out after that.
Before we get into this game, I want to let people know that last season, this match was 5-0 Lock Haven at Lock Haven.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's a good note, because this is like the field hockey game of the season. Happy to report 5-1 win against Lock Haven Friday the 20th at Sportport. And it was senior day, Zach. So Grace Golembuski, I think we said her name was going to be, Brooke Mason, Lauren Pendergast, Debbie Salaleka, Cameron Tucker, and Kendall Underwood were honored prior to the game. Lock Haven actually got their goal first. It was a penalty stroke in the first quarter, and the 1-0 lead lasted into halftime. I have no idea what was said at halftime, but Brooke Mason scored off an Abby Vitas pass less than a minute into the second half, and then the floodgates just opened from there. Josefina Perez scored off an assist from Julia Royakers to make it 2-1 after 3. Shia Dry made it 3-1 early in the fourth with Mason getting the assist. And then she assisted on an Abby Vitas goal with just under 7 minutes to play. A minute later, Sao Leka made it 5-1 with Golombowski getting the assist. So that's 5 different goal scorers with the seniors accounting for 2 goals and 2 assists. This was actually a school record for goals scored in a conference game. So that's huge. You know, you felt like this team's lost so many close games all season. And finally they really broke through in a big way on this one. And against the team above them in the standings too. Next up for them, Friday the 27th, they're at Davidson. They'll play Sunday the 29th at Appalachian State to end the regular season with a little North Carolina road trip. Davidson's a surprisingly big game for SLU, actually, because this gives them a chance to finish 7th or even 6th based on tiebreakers. SLU's 1-5 in the conference, and Davidson is 0-6. Lockhaven and Richmond are 2-4, and SLU owns the tiebreaker over Lockhaven, but not Richmond. So keep an eye on the results from this upcoming week. It could actually mean like the best ever A10 finish for them.
It not only could it mean the best A10 finish ever for them, it could mean, hold on. I'm going to go back a couple more years here because this could be, well, it's at least the first time since I've been able to drink alcohol. Okay. Now we're getting back. Now we're getting back to before I graduated high school. Yep. I hadn't graduated high school yet. All right, let's get, okay, wait a minute. Hold on. We might have this. Yes, we found one. Okay. This could be, if they win against Davidson, this will be the first time that they had back-to-back A10 wins in a season since 2006.
Wow.
And they beat LaSalle 2-0 and Westchester 3-1. So
Westchester was in the conference at the time.
They are the best Chester.
So, wow. Okay. That's amazing. So the year after I graduated, SLU.
And that season they finished 3-4 in conference. Let's
I guess
see.
it would have been 2 years after since it's a fall sport.
A10 anyway. Field hockey standings. Let's see if I can find them. Overall statistics. I don't know what this is gonna. Oh, son of a mother! Nothing. Nothing. Maybe I can't. Oh wait. 0607. Maybe I do. They finished 3rd in conference. No, that can't be right.
So I think
I said they finished 12-4 overall. What field hockey is this? There's no way.
No, that's not right.
No, they did finish 7-9 that season. 3-4.
Okay.
That was, I want to say that was Marcy. It was, am I right? Yes, it was Marcy Boyer, the late Marcy Boyer.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, fantastic. I really hope they win this damn game, dude.
Yeah, and then I can't wait to see what the sports information department comes up with for us. You know, like to verify whether we got it right or not. But
yes,
regardless, this would be a huge swing if they could do this. I mean, it's a nice way to end the season. I mean, to be very clear, they're not going to make the conference tournament. There's only 4 teams out of the 8 that get into it, and SLU is guaranteed. I mean, the top and bottom halves of the conference are already set, so yes. there's not going to be any movement in or out of the conference.
This is
tournament.
Awesome, dude. Friday night they're playing. It's a 7 p.m. It's a 6 p.m. game. This is fantastic.
At a 6 p.m. game at Davidson.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, 6 p.m. Central Time on ESPN Plus.
There you go.
That's fantastic.
I mean, that sets up nicely.
Yeah, that never happens. You never get an evening field hockey game.
Yeah, so check that out for sure. At Davidson too. I bet they have a nice setting to watch it.
It's okay. I think it was one of the only ones we got to watch a couple seasons ago. Cross country, Pete. Let's hear about it.
They're ranked. The men's cross country team is ranked number 14 in the Midwest region. The first time they were regionally ranked since being number 14 at the end of the 2018 season. They peaked at number 13 earlier that season. And then in 2017, they also peaked at number 13 and were ranked in 5 of 8 polling weeks. The best ranking in program history was the year before that, number 12 in 2016. So pretty cool to see them making their mark, in the Midwest region, and hopefully they can do the same at the A10 championships, which are on Saturday the 28th in Dayton, Ohio.
Swimming and diving at Wash U on Friday the 20th, and it looks like the Jim Halliburton what do you call it? I don't know. Yeah, men lost 128.5 to 105.5. Ben Mears finished first in the 1 meter and 3 meter diving competition. The women lost 129.5 to 113. Emily Leonard won the 500 free and the 1,000 free and anchored the women's 200 free relay team that won. Saturday, they head to Bellarmine. That'll be the 28th for a triple duel with Bellarmine Valpo at Eastern Illinois. Pete, it's another long episode. I love it. We're back.
It's another long one, Zach. Yeah, this is the long season, right? As fall blends into winter and we've got all these sports stacked on top of each other, this is where our episodes go long. But really, it's up to the soccer teams, or blame the soccer teams. They really determine how long these things go, depending on how deep they go in the postseason.
Oh no. SLU field hockey overlaps with the women's soccer on Friday. That stinks.
You're going to have one screen going at once?
Well, I got to be at Herman, man.
Well, you're going to have a screen going in your
Yes,
lap
I
or
will.
something.
Yes, I
sure
will.
you know.
I hate myself. All right. That does it for this week in Billiken Athletics. Follow us on all social media at Midtown Mad Pod, at Zach Miller MMP, at Peter is a tweeter. Subscribe to us on YouTube. It'd be great. We have, I think we're up to 104, which is pretty neat. I think that's right. But yeah, thank you all for listening. Go Bills.
Go Bills.